Sometimes visions of success are only a mirage. Other times, those dreams can turn out to be wildly fortunate and can happen in the most unlikely places. We'll take you to one such place right now on Ghost Towns and More. In the dry, dusty Mojave Desert in Southern California, prospectors wandered during the late 1800s looking for the slightest glimmer of gold that could possibly fulfill their dreams. It seemed that luck favored only a select few in these arid regions where survival was the priority. Frederick Moores had spent years of his life living on beans and bacon while prospecting throughout the western states with no such luck. He later settled in Southern California, searching the desolate region for what he hoped would turn his luck around. He and a partner stumbled upon a few traces of gold on the Rand Mountains in 1894, but decided to venture for better digging elsewhere. A year later, he heard of miners talking about the same area where he had once found only traces of gold. Fearing they might find more than what he had found, Moores and a new partner, John Singleton, decided to rush back and try again. They didn't have a wagon and needed supplies, so they brought on a new partner, Charles Burcham, and secretly decided to make a hasty trip back to Rand Mountain. To avoid any arousal of suspicion from other miners, Moores and his partners left their camp, headed in another direction to throw off anyone who might follow them, and once out of sight, changed course and headed straight for Rand Mountain. When the men got to Rand Mountain, one of them chipped off a piece of rock, which had strong evidence of a major gold vein, exclaiming, "We're rich! By George, we found it!" The men knew they were onto something big and needed to keep their find absolutely secret until they had the claim registered and documented, knowing other prospectors would try to jump in and steal their claim. On April 25, 1895, the three men staked their claim and tried to keep the location work secret. They devised a plan to throw off other prospectors in the area by filling their wagon with sacks of iron-stained rocks. Then Burcham drove it to a local water station. Curious, other prospectors inquired as to what was in the sacks, as they knew the men had been on Rand Mountain and wanted to know if they had found anything worthwhile. Burcham claimed they found something pretty good. While walking away some distance and the greedy prospectors did just as he hoped, they snuck over and examined the rocks in the bag. The prospectors soon spread gossip about Burcham and his partners being fools, not having found anything of value. This scheme bought Moores, Singleton, and Burcham extra time to get their mine claim set up and going, and legally protected. While reading a fiction novel one day, Moores decided to name their new mine after the novel, The Yellow Aster. Burcham returned home to his wife in San Bernardino to relate the fabulous news. Burcham's wife, Rose, was a doctor and very good with legal matters. She joined her husband and the partners to look after their contracts and protect their new company from legal entanglements from enterprising lawyers who would try to swindle their gold mining operation out from under them, a common practice at the time. The men left the business details to Rose Burcham. while the gold mining operation got underway. Word soon spread of the gold strike, and other prospectors flooded in. Almost overnight, a new tent city sprung up, which later became the town of Randsburg. By December of 1896, the population was over 1,500, and another nearby sister town called Johannesburg had started up as more gold strikes were found in the area. By October of 1897, the Rand mining district had produced over $600,000 in gold. A railroad was built into Randsburg by January of 1898, and the town became one of the great boom towns of the West. But just 2 days after the celebrated railroad came to town, fire erupted, destroying several buildings. The town was rebuilt, only to be ravaged by fire again 5 months later. Firefighters learned that to control the spread of fires, they would sometimes have to dynamite a building or home to create a fire break to stop the flames from spreading. During one of these controlled explosions, responders lit some dynamite in a home, only to immediately discover a small boy was still inside. Some frantic, quick action got the boy out in time before the house blew up. The riches came pouring in for Moores, Singleton, and Burcham, and the town prospered. The neighboring town of Johannesburg had running water, which was eventually piped into Randsburg. The population at Randsburg continued to grow and had over 300 buildings. Moores and Singleton built lavish homes for themselves in Los Angeles. The mining boom continued for years and went on to produce over $60 million in gold. Eventually, the Great Depression hit and mining dropped off. The railroad ceased operations in 1933, and a year later, the rails were taken up. So whatever happened to Frederick Moores, John Singleton, and Charles Burcham after they achieved such fabulous wealth? Frederick Moores had been married for many years, but had never lived with his wife very much because of his years of prospecting and his troubles with alcoholism. After he became wealthy, he asked his wife to join him at his mansion in Los Angeles, only to find themselves in a troubled and unhappy marriage. Moores died at age 52 in the year 1900, and his will was hotly contested, as he had only left a small amount of money to his wife, while leaving his mansion to his mother. John Singleton did not fare much better. Divorced and wealthy at age 53 in the year 1900, he hired a photographer to make an elaborate album about his mansion and estate, and sent it to a young woman back east who was 33 years younger than himself. He invited her to come to Los Angeles and marry him, and so she did. In 1901 they were married, but as she later found, all that glitters is not gold. Singleton's only son committed suicide in the mansion a year later. 4 years after that, the mansion went up in flames, and so did his marriage. He died in 1914 at the age of 67. Charles Burcham and his wife Rose were together until Charles passed away in 1913 from heart disease at the age of 53. His wife Rose was the only surviving member of the early partnership and passed away in 1944 at the age of 86. Today, Randsburg is a living ghost town and is rich with history and things to see when tourists visit. Many Hollywood filmmakers have used Randsburg as a backdrop for several movies. Randsburg has a museum and is a delightful historic place to visit with many relics and fun things to see from its colorful past. If you are looking to experience history from the Old West, Randsburg and close by Johannesburg are exceptional places to visit in your ghost town travels.